Hi guys, it's Kelly Latevola here, and I'm back with another video for Neat and Tangled. Today I'm going to be working on some thank you cards for my son's teachers, and I'm going to be combining a bunch of different sets. So two of them are newer, the Complementary Colors set and then the Paint Night, and then School Days and the Awesome set. So basically, I'm just going to create a border here at the bottom, just using some Salty Ocean Distress ink. A lot of times when you see things that are school-based or teacher-based, they have like a border, they're a lot of primary colors, things like that. So that's kind of the vibe I was going for, and I just needed a strip of color that was going to ground my characters. If you don't have distress ink, you could definitely just put a piece of colored cardstock at the bottom and get the same effect. I just don't happen to have a lot of colored cardstock anymore, and I prefer a flatter card. You guys know I love one layer cards. This isn't going to be one layer, but you get what I'm saying. So the reason that I picked out the Paint Night and the Complementary Colors set is because they have these super cute little kiddos in them, and well, these little characters, and they're holding like paint tubes and paint brushes or easels, and I just thought, well, if I combine that with some school images, I've turned these kids into students, and it's a great just super fast kind of school card without really needing to pick up a school character set, because I already have this. I have this one, and that's going to be enough. The little accessories will be enough to make it school-ish. I probably could have gotten away with even not doing the school bus or the apple, things like that. I probably could have just used the characters, but I just thought it kind of made it more like collage-y, more interesting. So because I am basically, I have 1,100 things to do and only 24 hours in which to do it. These were one of the things that I really wanted to do, and I wanted them to have something that they loved. But I couldn't take a lot of time. That's basically that's just honest. That's what it came down to. And there's so much going on in that collage style. I didn't really feel like I was shortchanging them by not doing detailed coloring, because there's just so much to look at. Just so much to look at with something like this. So for the most part, I'm using 2 color blends, but for some of them, it's even going to be 1 color, just a quick swipe of color and moving on. And I don't know how you felt about it when you saw the card, that maybe something was missing. I don't feel like anything was, and I'm normally a 4 color blend person. So I'm just going through and adding shading to my little characters. Now, I did do different races, different skin tones, just because, they teach so many kids, and not every kid looks like my kid, which is, white, brown hair, blue eyes. And I wanted it to be a representation of kind of their whole class, which, as you guys know, you've watched my videos before, you know that I feel like that's something that we don't do a good job of in card making in general. So sometimes when I pick the colors, I thought that they would blend decently, but I would have to kind of tweak it a little bit. And this one, I struggled with the blending on the little girl with the paint tube, only because I realized after the fact that the 2 that I had picked to pair together, I wasn't even using, guys. I had picked up the wrong marker. But that's okay, because I was able to use what they call tip-to-tip blending. So because alcohol markers, because that's what they're made out of, one color will pick up another. That's what helps them to blend so well, is their transparency and the way that they work together. So if you use your lighter color marker to pick up, you can do it directly off the tip of the darker colored marker, but I tend to use like the area that's kind of like dried around it, whether it's on the base of the marker or even the cap. You can use the cap as well if you are uber religious about cleaning your Copic markers, which you can clearly tell that I am not. That would take time away. It needs to be done, don't get me wrong, it's important, but that takes time away from my coloring, and Mama ain't just got time for that. I just don't have time for it. And someday when I have time again, when I don't have a toddler and 856 million things to do, maybe I'll clean the caps of my markers. But even then, let's be honest, Probably not. But don't do as I say, don't do as I do, because I am probably shortening the lifespan of my markers by not cleaning them regularly. So now that their skin tones are done, I'm going to move on to their hair. This is one of the reasons I chose to do 2 color blends, because I wanted their hair and their skin to have some depth. Not that it needed to be like crazy, like I normally do it, but I did want there to be some shadows and some light areas. Going back to that whole Copic's are transparent thing, even though you're only using 1 color, and you'll really see it when I do his shirt, you can still layer the same color over top of itself and get a darker color. So you don't necessarily always need a 2 color blend. I just feel like it does give better depth. This will also work, you know, if maybe you don't have, I know how expensive Copics are, guys. Like, let's not beat around the bush. I do know how much they cost because I pay for them. You know what I mean? Nobody's shipping me Copics. I bought every Copic marker that's in my collection. And I don't own them all. I don't think I want to own them all because I suffer from full set syndrome. I know I'm not the only person out there who suffers from full set syndrome. But I don't need them. I don't need them. And I know just from using the hex chart, where it's Copic's color chart is basically by color family. So they have like 3 markers in a blending family, and then that's how they're separated. So they're not next to each other, but in the hex chart, they are. And so you can see which ones are basically the same color. Like an RV29 and an R29, pick one. Don't buy them both. I own them both, and they are almost identical. One is slightly more pink, and I mean slightly. So very quickly talking about this little girl's hair here. I wanted her hair to be curly. She's clearly a little black girl. And so I just did little squiggles over the lines that were already drawn. I chose to use a navy blue so her hair wouldn't look gray since I'm only using a 2 color blend. You could also use a deep violet or a dark brown or a super dark like reddish brown, like a mahogany. Any of those things would work as a base layer, and then I just use the black on top of it. This has probably, I don't know, maybe a little bit more white in her hair that I would like, but I don't think with everything that's going on in this car, and everybody's going to be looking at that like, oh, maybe she has a little too much white in her hair. So I'm not going to stress over it. We got bigger things in life that we're doing, that we're responsible for. For the paint tube, same thing as I did with the easel. I'm adding shading to the left and the right side, leaving the highlight right down the center. And I felt it was just easier to do the entire paint tube that way. I'm going to do the same thing with her little apron over here, even though at the end of it, I decided to make it a little half apron. But that gray shading isn't going to hurt anything. It's not going to hurt a thing. I chose, even though I did the salty ocean in the background, I toyed with going with a brighter blue for their blues, and I opted to go with a navy. I don't think that they don't work well together, and I liked the navy better with the yellows and the reds that I had in mind for this card. So, but I did have to do, I was using a B95 and a B99, and I did have to do the tip-to-tip blending a little bit because of how dark that 99 is. So I think we're going to do his shirt now. So you can see here, I'm just going to fill in that area with the R29. Okay, and it's fine just like this. But to get a little bit of depth, I'm going to color over his chest again, and then I'm going to do one stripe on his arm. And you can see that even though it's the same color, there is a differentiation. It does now look like a highlight on the inner part of his arm, even though I just used 1 color. So keep that in mind. If you don't have a lot of colors, or you're trying to do very quick coloring, you can layer those colors on top of each other and still get a little bit of shadow. So I just picked a super bright yellow. This is a Y08. And for this little girl shirt, I'm not even going to do any shading. I didn't think it was necessary. I'm just going to fill it in. I am very, I'm I'm just really very generally kind of filling these in. I'm not giving too much thought to their outfits. I knew I was working with a limited color palette. I knew I was going to be sticking basically just to these red, yellow, blues. And I still think that it worked fine. I really do. I wasn't disappointed in the way that the coloring went at all. I wanted their little easels to have something on there, and I wanted it to look very childlike. So I just drew them by hand. So you saw I just drew that little heart there, and then for the easel in the background, I'm just going to do like a little smiley face, because like I said when I started this, my son, it's the end of the year. He's graduating preschool. And so the whole thing was super cute. They had little songs that they sang, and they got a little certificate that says, that they're graduated from preschool and they're moving on to kindergarten. And the whole thing was super adorable. They did like a potluck afterward. We opted out of the potluck and just took him to a local restaurant that he loves because he wanted pancakes. So that was what we did with him. And it was a ton of fun. I just really wanted to, give them something to tell them thank you, that we appreciate what they are doing. For, in this particular case, our case, 4 hours, for 4 hours of the day, they are, they're raising our children, and teachers are so unappreciated. And I'm just so grateful for the time and the effort that they put into, their jobs. And I know for me, like when I leave my job, if I don't want to continue to have to do things for work, I don't have to. Teachers don't typically have that option. Usually they are sitting at home doing lesson plans. They got like these binders that came home with them this year. And I mean, nobody else put them together but those teachers, those binders. And I'm sure that they were doing it at home in sweatpants with, coffee at 10 p.m., just struggling through. And man, can I empathize with that. So just very grateful for them. Wanted to talk very quickly. It's not mine. The department that I work for has a youth group, and we do different things. So we do like discussion-based things, and we do activity-based things. And so I'm going to tell this story. And yes, I realize that I am a grown woman, but the reason I'm telling this story is because the things that teachers do shape children, and whether it's good or it's bad. So I don't play organized sports. I don't play organized sports because I don't like being up there to bat, to kick the ball, to any of those things, and have people stare at me. And the reason that I don't is because when I was in elementary school, it was super easy to make me cry. I was a very, very sensitive child, and I didn't like all the people staring at me. I was very uncomfortable, and I had a gym teacher that made me stand up in front of my entire class at bat until I hit the ball, to which I refused. And so we stood there in this standoff until basically I started crying in front of my entire class. And then she sent me to the principal's office for probably insubordination, honestly. And so that just so shaped the way that I would participate, because it was just, again, adult. I'm an adult. It probably shouldn't be that big of a deal, but I can't get that anxiety of it. I can't get over it. And so at youth group the other day, we were playing kickball. And I had these two girls who, I've built this relationship with as we've worked through this program, and I can hear them talking to each other. They don't want to play. I certainly wasn't playing because I'm like, I will pass out on this field if I got to get up there and people are going to look at me. And, and this is in front of people I work with. Like, I'm not hanging out here, like, not that they're not my friends, but like, this isn't a friendly game of whatever. This isn't my family. These are coworkers. I'm like, yeah, I'm not getting up there. I'll keep score. That's always my running joke. I'll keep score. So these two girls are sitting next to me, and I can hear them talking to each other, and they're saying, well, I'll go if you go. Well, I don't, you go first. No, well, you go first. No, well, I don't, and so we're talking, and one of the guys I work with, I was encouraging them to go. And he said, why don't you lead by example? And that was a very, very good point. Teachers do have the ability to affect children's outcomes and the way that they experience life and the way that they view themselves. But it's not just teachers in a classroom. I had an opportunity here to do something to show these girls that they should be brave and they shouldn't worry about what other people think. And that I'm a huge proponent of that it doesn't matter. Those things don't matter. What other people think of you, big picture, is insignificant. And so I said, if I go up, will you? And both of them immediately were like, yeah, if you go first, we'll go after you. If you go first, we'll go. And so I did. And I'm not over exaggerating. If any of you have anxiety, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. I get up there. I got the tunnel vision. I'm sweating. I got the shakes. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. And like, thank God, like he rolled that ball and just, just like that gut reaction, just like totally took over, kicked the ball, ran to first base. It was fine. I thought I was going to vomit. I'm not even, like, no over exaggeration. I thought I was going to vomit. And like, I get to first base and I'm shaking so bad. And one of the guys I work with is like, are you okay? And I'm like, dude, I had like a traumatic thing when I was a kid, and I don't play organized sports for this exact reason. And I'm a little bit like manic. And he like literally is standing on first base holding my hand, which was extremely, extremely sweet. So I am grateful for those people who are willing to do those things for my child. And then that's the entire card. So a little bit heavy at the end there. My apologies. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope that you'll try, doing the 2-color blend or something like this sometime here in the near future. And I will catch you in the next video. Bye.